Between the endless amounts of ways it could be used and the creation story, it makes the building that much more important to save. The creation story says the turtle is what the world is rested on and what the whole earth started with. It is said the sky woman fell through a hole and went hurtling down, but two giant birds came and grabbed her. To the water and air that was filled with all kinds of animals, the only animal able to support the woman was the giant turtle, so that's where she was rested. Different area animals went to grab some on the bottom of the seafloor, which when was brought up was placed on the turtle's back for the sky woman to do traditional dances on and expand the earth, which is what we have now. The turtle is a place where Native Americans go to feel connected to their ancestors and their heritage. The sad and many times unacknowledged history of natives are ignored or outright erased since the first Europeans arrived here. First, it was Manifest Destiny with the Trail of Tears, which over 100,000 Native Americans died. After that was the Wordsworth natives. After the Words, they were pushed to live on reservations and into residential schools, the last one closing in 1978 in the United States. That wiped away their culture and history. Residential schools across this nation was made specifically to force young Native kids to forget about their cultures and not learn or remember where they came from, which was prevented generation after generation to pass their knowledge down. The owner of the turtle owns a large chunk of downtown Niagara Falls. This would just be another example of a non-Native person silencing Native American people and trying to eliminate their Native culture. Speaking to my own personal experience, my great-grandmother was sent to the Mohawk Institution, which is called the Mush Hole by many Natives. Since she was sent to the Mush Hole, she never taught my grandmother anything about Native culture or heritage. That then led my mother and aunts, who had to learn everything off any books they could find. This led me to be taught very little since my mother didn't know much about her culture. My family went to the turtle to learn about the things they never had the chance to be taught until it was shut down. I was lucky enough to have some of my culture in my life, though through the Native American program in elementary school here in Niagara Falls, since my family wasn't able to teach me many things. Many people my age have the same issue or something similar to it. The turtle would give us that chance to learn more about the culture we should have been able to be taught. The turtle would give Native Americans and around the area a chance to connect and come together to be able to be taught. The turtle would give natives around the Natives would have a chance to be themselves and express themselves without having to explore and search far for someone who is like them. Only 1% of Niagara Falls population is Native Americans. The turtle would give those natives a chance to feel heard and not feel invisible. What would be the alternative to not giving the turtle another chance at life with a landmark designation? Another hotel. There are at least 13 hotels downtown around the turtle. Why is there need for another one? The turtle could bring an attraction to downtown that would encourage more people to come here and fill up the hotels that we already have. Personally, I would like to see the turtle turned into a museum that people can go and learn about Native culture. Also a place that natives can go and have powwows. The kitchen would open teaching about Native foods and making all of the foods would be there. There would be Native vendors selling their crafts like beading and ribbon skirts, shirts, and dresses. There would be classes that teach how to make Native crafts and food, how to do traditional dances, and what they were used for and mean. Thank you.
Hi, it's Jessica Frigette, sorry. Hello, I'm Jessica Frigette. I live at 8301 Troy Avenue. I am from the Cayuga Nation of Bear Clan. I have been a resident of Niagara Falls my whole life. First, I just want to acknowledge my beautiful kids over there. After college, I made a conscientious effort to move back to this area to help improve this community. And one thing I valued and remember the most from my childhood here in Niagara Falls was attending events at the Turtle. In the early 90s, my cousins and I would run around these events, eating food, looking at artwork made by people who looked like me, hearing elders speak about the good days, and so much more. As a city Indian, I grew up not knowing where I really belonged in this city. The Turtle gave me that connection that I needed. As we all know, the decades since Niagara Falls redevelopment purchased the Turtle and 140 acres of property in Niagara Falls, they've chosen to neglect almost all of it, including the turtle. Watching it become the shell of what it once was, these past few decades have been very heartbreaking. Now, as an educator here in Niagara Falls at the high school, I see so many Native students, like the ones that just came with me today, feel that loneliness, invisibility, and disconnection to their ancestors and Native community. I started the Native American Youth Club at Niagara Falls High School in the hopes of getting not only Native students, but all students more involved and educated on the rich Native culture that is originally from this area. Having the turtle become a landmark designation and one day brought back to its glory would be such a powerful story to have these students tell their own children one day. We as a city have to do better. These students stood before you all with the courage and the pride for Native culture and preservation. Others sent in letters on behalf of the landmark designation for the turtle because they care what happens to this city more than many adults think they do. That is not an easy task for young people today. Give these students and their peers something to actually be proud about of the city. No hotel will ever be able to do that. Let the future generations honor and value all cultures and be proud the city of Niagara Falls chose to stand for something. Thank you.
I'd like to start out by saying hello to the Niagara Falls Historic Preservation Commission. I am Brandon Kennedy, and I am here with Preservation Buffalo Niagara. Now I stand before you today not only as a preservationist or as a historian, but as a voice for a symbol of our region's heritage, a testament to our collective past, and perhaps really the future. I speak none other than the turtle. The turtle, constructed in 1997, is the brainchild of Northern Arapaho architect Denison Rhodes. His design was not just an architectural endeavor, but an homage to indigenous nations of America. He was inspired by the Haudenosaunee creation story of the turtle, and he envisioned a structure that would celebrate their diversity and heritage. From the local landmark application, Denison Rhodes gained a national reputation for designing buildings for indigenous nations across the country. His designs are noted for incorporating symbolic forms and reflecting elements from the local indigenous nations who would utilize them. And I'd like to quote an interesting statistic from the landmark application as well. According to the American Institute of Architects, as of 2021, only 419 of the 94,000 members identified as indigenous architects. That's less than half of 1%. Now, Rhodes' design, it's original and unique. It embodies the spirit of the indigenous nations it represents. The turtle is not just a building, but a symbol of the rich cultural tapestry that makes up our nation and our region. Its design is a testament to the creativity and the ingenuity of indigenous architects, and it is a rare gem in the architectural landscape of our country. The turtle stands as a rare example of zoomorphic architecture in the United States, and it is one of the few remaining examples of indigenous architecture in Western New York. And perhaps this is truly a one-of-a-kind structure. In all of the research, we were only able to find one other building that resembles the turtle. But yet today, the turtle stands vacant. It is deteriorating. Its grandeur and its beauty is fading, and it faces the threat of demolition. This would be a loss not just for our city, but for our history and for our indigenous populations. Within the turtle lies untapped potential. It has a spacious auditorium, exhibit space, and a restaurant area that hold promise for adaptive reuse. By designating this as a local landmark, we would not only recognize the historic, cultural, and architectural significance of the turtle, but we would also ensure that any future changes align with its original character. This designation would enhance Niagara Falls' cultural diversity, promote tourism, and protect a building that is truly one of a kind. We would be preserving an irreplaceable asset for future generations. So, once again, I urge you to vote in favor of the local landmark designation for the turtle. Let us honor our past, celebrate our future, and secure a future for the turtle. Thank you for your consideration.
Evening. I'm JP Sharp. I live in Niagara Falls, New York right now, born and raised in Lewiston. One of my earliest memories of childhood is going to Niagara Falls with my family and grandparents. My grandparents were originally from Lewiston. They moved out of state. Every time they came in, we would visit local landmarks, mostly Niagara Falls, very close. And it was a very, very beautiful place. Lots of tourism. You had the winter gardens, the ice skating rink. You know, we had the Festival of Lights, the falls, the park, and the turtle. And one of the earliest memories I have of the turtle is actually sitting inside the head. There was the two bubble windows. You used to be able to sit in there and look out there. And even at a young age, I thought that that was just one of the coolest buildings. I mean, it's a turtle. How often do you get to see that? And a lot of things that's happened in Niagara Falls is disappearing. So much is gone. So much of the history of Niagara Falls has just been wiped away and turned into vacant parking lots. I don't think we need another parking lot. It's just there's already enough places to park. We don't need any more hotels. What we need is tourism. And what better tourism is an existing building that's not like anything else. And I just don't think they should be torn down. And after hearing all these amazing stories of natives and what it means to them, it's just another reason to just keep it. We don't need to tear anything else down Niagara Falls. We need to preserve what's left and move from there. So I move forward to, I like to preserve it. So thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Jarnott, and I'm a preservation planner with Preservation Buffalo Niagara and a resident of Niagara Falls. I'm here not only to ask you to approve the local landmark status of the turtle, but also to serve as a gentle reminder of what we have already lost, as well as a symbolic representation of this structure. I could stand here before you and tell you that this is a rare and exemplary form of zoomorphic architecture designed by Tuscarora sculptor Duffy Wilson and architect Dennis Sun Rhodes, but I think you already know that. And that you already know it already meets landmark status just by those things alone. Today, I want to remind you that Niagara Falls has lost so many historical structures and items due to negligence and urban renewal. I do not want the turtle to face the same fate. The turtle is symbolic of the earth, and the skylight eagle on its back symbolizes protection. It shows that the earth is protected. What kind of message would it send not only to the people who believe in that symbolism, but to the green urban renewal plans, and to the natural feature that makes our city one of the best tourism destinations in the world? It could symbolize that the earth is indeed in danger. We have a real chance to change the common theme of abandonment, demolition, and parking lot with this one. If the developer wants to build another hotel, might I suggest looking right down the street at Hotel Niagara, which is actually in need of development. With Preservation Buffalo Niagara, I will be serving as their Niagara Falls liaison, so I hope to see you all plenty. And I would really, really love to hit the ground running together and start with one of the most iconic buildings of Niagara Falls. Preservation, regret only works one way, right? Nobody ever regrets preserving a building. Thank you for listening to me today. Please vote yes on saving the turtle for future generations to enjoy. Thank you.
Good evening. Before I get into my statement, I was really blown away by the youth, and it puts my words, my meager words to shame. I'm Carl Skopinsky. I live in, where do I live? Williamsville, New York. Good evening. I'd like to begin the statement by acknowledging that we live on the land of indigenous people. Traditionally, these lands were the home of many nations, including the Neutral, Erie, Wendro, Huron, and other peoples. Today, the land which the city operates is still the traditional homeland of the Seneca and other Haudenosaunee peoples. We are grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and share ideas in this territory. I'd like to thank the Niagara Falls Preservation Commission for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Native American Center for the Living Arts landmark application. I won't take time describing the building or its significance because the application covers all those specifics. The fact that the application was created in the first place demonstrates the value the city and the commission hold for the Turtle building. The critical point is to highlight the need for the landmark, to landmark the Turtle, as Niagara Falls has lost some significant buildings in the past that have negatively impacted its very fabric and economy. One was the Winter Garden, as mentioned. It was a beloved building that people still talk about and share memories about. Another was the brick carriage building at DeVoe Woods State Park, just feet from the New York State Parks, Recreation, and ironically, Historic Preservation Office. Both were intended to be saved, but relied on others to do so. So here we are, with over 1,100 letters of support from residents, Western New Yorkers, and folks across the country in North America, all asking for the application to be supported by this commission and the City Council. Niagara Falls, like many cities, has piles of master plans and designs gathering dust on shelves to be revisited only during the next study is underway. As far back as 2002, the city's Achieving Niagara Falls Future, an assessment of Niagara Falls waterfront planning report done by the University of Buffalo, states Niagara Falls needs a world-class visitor attraction in a world-class building to be the centerpiece of a system of natural and cultural heritage attractions. The city's comprehensive plan of 2009 states the desire to develop a cultural district. How many political leaders state we need more year-round destinations and not another hotel? It's great to have hotels, but when they lay people off during the off-season, where do people survive and get ahead in those down months? What keeps visitors in the city for another day and into the off-season? One more day or coming off-season adds more hotel stays, dinners, drinks, all adding to the local economy. It also supports more year-round employment. At the intersection of the entertainment district and the state park, where 9 million people visit each year, we have a regional asset that needs to be put back into productive use for the city's economic benefit and to add to the quality of life of its residents. The Turtle can have a second life as part of a cultural ecosystem promoted with the aquarium, the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center, and other city assets along the river. All could mutually benefit from a reopened Turtle, and so could the city. Now is the time to focus on what can be possible with passing the local landmark application for the Turtle. It can be a first step in correcting what one person wrote in the Niagara Gazette. The Turtle is an unsightly mess with windows and doors covered in grime and even signs of mold creeping along the walls. My understanding from news reports and my conversations with the owner is that the building is not in bad shape. Repairs and updates to mechanics need to be made to modernize the building and to make it more sustainable. But then again, isn't that what we all do with our own homes? Local landmarking could force the city to do more code inspections and follow-up corrections. Local landmarking the turtle is the first step in a process of working to have it opened again. We don't need to get into these steps, but landmarking the building brings awareness to it. And with that, conversation, dialogue, and ideas. Thank you for your time.
Now a scaneth weru rahagwiri de gatha ganya gehaga di wagaf nuna dis new jis mergis a sit de new jis hen di wakanana ha akje wa uchat new jis hen wagaragwa. So my Mohawk name is Jordan, or is rahagwiri. My English name is Jordan Smith. I'm a Mohawk. I reside on the Tuscarora Indian Reservation with my beautiful family. For me, this turtle building, I don't have a memory without it in my head. I come from third generation singer, dancer, traditional educator of the Haudenosaunee culture. I am currently employed as the head of Native Interpretation and Programming at Old Fort Niagara Association. So as an educator, a place like the Turtle needs to be, I don't want to say reawakened because she's just sleeping, so I guess reawakened, it doesn't need another life. Now, when this building was put there, it was way ahead of its time. Native architecture, native designer. Still to this day, the numbers show us that that does not happen often. It's significant not only to the Haudenosaunee people here throughout Lake Ontario, but it's significant to the indigenous people throughout the world. Still to this day, like many, many years ago, 300 plus years ago, people flock to this area because we have this beautiful, beautiful thundering waters over here. And now when people talk about being connected to the earth, we're connected directly to those waters. Your ancestors are directly connected to those waters as well. Our job as a community is to help pick up one another. This is a perfect opportunity for that. I grew up in Niagara Falls. I didn't learn my language until I was 27. The Turtle gave me a place as a kid to get a start to become the man that I am today, the father that I am today, the leader in my community that I am today. With that place, there's so many more opportunities for not just indigenous people, but for people altogether. Society, we have to get together and start building each other up to make each other feel well. Because when we're feeling good, good things start to happen. When we start vibrating at a positive frequency, nothing can stop us from making anything happen. Now, this situation, it reminds me of a perfect, a lesson that we can all learn from. This lesson takes place before any of, our grandparents even thought about coming to beautiful Niagara Falls. It takes place between the Haudenosaunee and the Dutch. And it's called Deohage Gaswanta, the Turo Wampum. And it discusses of us living side by side, traveling this beautiful, beautiful river of life, but conducting ourselves accordingly as separate people, but still traveling together. Now, it's my understanding that the natives in their canoe, and at this point in history, the Dutch in their ships, sometimes that power struggle happens. So what we did metaphorically in our treaties, we come to an agreement that we bind these ships together. At one time it was rope, but then it changes into those chains, into that metal, because it's stronger. Now, the reason we bind these vessels together is because we are not supposed to surpass each other. We are supposed to help each other in those times of need. And we're all historians here. We love history. We know that all of these things we're talking about, these great things happened many, many years ago. And we got to reiterate to people and remind them how people are supposed to be, how people in this area were. And I think with the Turtle being reawakened, the sky's the limit. There are still going to be people coming here from all over the world because of the cataract, but there are going to be indigenous people coming all over the world because of that turtle building. I wouldn't have been able to speak my language. I see some familiar faces from when I was in school here as well. And it's kind of hard to be an Ongwe, an indigenous person in a school where there's 5 of you, and they just happen to all be your cousins. So we need to get out there and show each other who we are as a people. The more you learn about me, the less you are inclined to make an ignorant assumption. Knowledge is power, and that's what we need to do, and that's what that building was intended for. And I think it still can be utilized in that way. And all it takes is a bunch of great-minded individuals to get together and use, in our language, we say, "Skati Gerrad," in the Tuscarora language, to use one mind. That's how we all need to come together as a people, and when we do that, like I said, nothing is impossible. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Helen Crest. I live at 2965 Weston Avenue, and I submitted a letter for you. I'll just read part of it. So here we are again in city government, devoting a whole night to helping the same property developer do something with his property. Okay. Granted, the Milsteins and NFR acquired the turtle in 1997 when it was already vacant. But now 27 years later, 5 mayors later, and how many city councils later, they're still not doing anything with it. And groups like Preservation Buffalo Niagara suggest we should work with the owner. The government should work with the owner. The community should work with the owner. Who can work with this guy? He's done nothing. Who's going to try to work with him? Him and, I would have to say, the turtle in this century has added no economic value to tourism in the community. There's just as many tourists that walk by and say, "What is that? It looks horrible." Okay. I have very positive memories of being in the turtle over 30 years ago for many events. I had very good experiences there and remembered it as a vibrant place. I also have very fond memories of other Niagara Falls structures that either are already gone or really should be demolished. I'll be one of the people cheering when the Hotel Niagara is demolished, okay? Even though my parents had their first date there. It's not safe. Well, anyway, that's not about this. I have photographs to look at. I have great stories. I have other people to talk to about some of those buildings. But unless groups like this panel and preservation groups can come up with some concrete business ideas that are really viable, 5, 6, or more of those ideas that you can give to and really sit down with NFR, then I don't think you should give historical status to this building. Because unless you're going to give some concrete ideas, he's not going to do it. They're not going to do it. They haven't done anything in 27 years. So if you combine preservation status with some real ideas and business connections, I don't think it should go forward. I would support it if there's some real opportunities, because I do remember it as a vibrant place. And this is the only time you'll ever see me agree with Niagara Falls redevelopment. They're the other letter that was complaining about it. Even if they tear it down, I don't think he's going to do anything with it. So I think really if you can persuade, or other advocacy groups can persuade them to sell it to a better developer. There's so many developers in Western New York. I have a list of them here, just at least a dozen of them. Then I think nothing's going to happen with it. Okay, and I'm sorry to say that because I have only positive memories of it. But if he hasn't worked with 5 mayors and is still complaining about the city, this status is not going to help. You have to reach out more. The other groups here have to reach out more than just this designation. And I would be happy to be part of that. But this alone, this status, is not going to nudge him along.
Hello, good evening, everybody. So I've heard a lot of stories and memories of this building. I've heard the Winter Gardens be brought up, the Festival of Lights. But for me personally, I'm only 21. I grew up in post-urban renewal Niagara Falls, right? So I feel like us sitting in this room, we should be in support of this, and we should stand on the right side of history in preserving this type of building for cultural heritage, right? For preserving indigenous history, right? And I cannot speak on that preservation if I didn't work the job that I work at. I work at the Underground Railroad Heritage Center. I'm the youth and advocacy specialist there. So you heard my colleague Saladin speak earlier, right? But working there, you cannot talk about the black struggle without talking about the indigenous struggle, right? Those things are intertwined, and we cannot ignore that. So I cannot sit here and be silent and not speak about the importance of preserving this, because too often throughout history, our identities have been stripped, right? Black individuals along with indigenous individuals, right? We experience one of the worst deaths of all, which is called a social death. We talk about that often at our Heritage Center, how throughout the history of the Underground Railroad, throughout slavery, many people of African descent, experienced that. We are stripped of our identities, right? And we had to preserve the little culture that we had left in order to empower the next generations that came after us, right? And unfortunately, indigenous peoples had to go through those same things due to colonialism, colonization, imperialism, right? So we have to preserve this building. We have to be on the right side of history. We just celebrated an important holiday recently, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and he even once said himself, and I'm not quoting this exactly, but he even said, to be silent is a betrayal. And we cannot sit here and be silent and stand idly while we have this important building here that needs to be preserved. So the time to do something right is now. And I encourage you all to be in support of this and to fight to preserve this, right? It may be a scary thing to fight to preserve this, but if you have young people like me and younger people here that can speak up for themselves and can speak up for the preservation of their culture, I feel like we all can do that. So thank you. That's all I had to say.
Hi all, I'm Chishspiels. I live at 740 Park Place. Some of you have visited it. What I'm holding here is a New York Times article. It was from August 3rd, 1958, and it was written by James G. Marshall, the original owner of the house I own, and it's titled, "Electric Site Urged as Park." Mr. Marshall had organized a group to begin working on saving the Edward Dean Adams power plant. Just 2 decades earlier, he had spearheaded the restoration of Old Fort Niagara and helped form the Old Fort Niagara Association to maintain it, which they still do today. He saw similar potential for the historic Adams plant also. Now, has anyone here been to visit the Canadian Parks Power Station and the tunnel over on the Canadian side? Yeah. It's an amazing piece of work. That plant was built in 1905 and built by the same architect and made as a replica of the Edward Dean Adams plant. That the Niagara Parks power plant in the tunnel over there has generated $5 million in revenue in its first year of operations. You're probably asking, okay, so what does this have to do with the turtle? Well, understanding history is the best way not to repeat it. So here's the rest of the story, and it may sound a bit familiar. There's an article from the Gazette on December 5th, 1962, titled "Much Effort Extended to Save the Adams Plant." I'm going to read that article, and bear with me, but listen for the similar points of history here. There's a fairly thick manila folder kept in an office of Martin J. Traverse at the Marine Trust Company. It's brought out from time to time and carried to meetings where it's open to refer to and then closed up again. The folder is neatly labeled Adams Plant Project. It tells a story. The first entry is a list of 22 industrialists or businessmen organized in 1958. Most of them heads at their respective firms at the time. Some still do. Others have died or moved out of the city. They were brought together in June 1958 to serve on a committee organized to save the historic Adams plant, where the first alternating current electricity was produced on the mass basis. The committee was organized by James G. Marshall when he was 88 years old. He unfortunately passed away before he could see the idea come to fruition, but his idea is still being kept alive by a committee. Mr. Traverse heads. There have been other new names added, and some have gone and some gone. The committee was to meet on June 5th for a tour, but was unable to, and they finally met on July 7th. They heard that the Adams plant first transmitted alternating current over a long distance in 1895. The electricity carried over that vast distance, 25 miles, was used to illuminate the new streetlights in Buffalo. They heard that the Adams plant is credited with making Niagara Falls an industrial city. They heard that the first generator at the Adams plant was designed and built by Westinghouse Electric Corporation under the supervision of the company's founder, George Westinghouse. They also heard that the plant was the first plant to employ Nikola Tesla's invention of the polyphase system and alternating current. That night at a Hotel Niagara committee dinner, they all heartily agreed with the motion made by George Reeves, an area historian, that there is a need for an organization that will function for preservation of the first plant that generated any volume of electricity for transmission over any sort of distance point. They adjourned at 7:40 p.m. The next meeting was held on November 6th. Mr. Traverse, a banker, emphasized that the project of this magnitude would entail a considerable sum of money. He is still emphasizing this 4 years later. It goes on to talk about all of the letters that come in and all of the reasons to support it, and as you all know, it's gone, right? All we have left is the transformer building. And why is that? Today, the Adams plant is lying dormant. This is how this article wraps up in 1962. The reason why it's lying dormant is because of a gentleman named Robert Moses. Now, we are sitting in modern day history knowing what that past was. We have a very wealthy and powerful owner of a building that we don't want to lose. We can either repeat the past, okay, thank you, or we can think about what we learned from yesterday, what we want for today, and what we want for the future tomorrow. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Did I miss anybody on the list? I don't believe so, but I want to make sure that I did not. Somebody wants. Okay.
I wasn't on the list, but I'd be interested in speaking if I was allowed.
Yep, you can.
Hi, my name's Clarissa Yellow. I'm a resident of the Tuscarora Nation, and my children are actually descendants of Duffy Wilson. The significance of, right there. The significance of the turtle to their family actually means a real lot, and it's really unfortunate that they weren't able to experience any of these themselves, but they hear stories all the time. And throughout tonight, I heard that there's an economical need to be able to sustain this building. And I just want you to know, as Jordan had said, there's not many of us in this community, but we're all tied together. There isn't a wedding that I don't remember that happened between my family growing up there. So the economical push to have more than just a museum, more than just a restaurant, there's more to be said and more to be explored for that space because of the size. There's no place in this area that has a building big enough to hold a lot of our venues, or a lot of our family events and everything else. So I just wanted to put that on there, that there's also economical uses for this building, not just historical and museum purposes. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Anybody else with me tonight? Okay.
Good evening. Belinda Patterson from the Tuscarora Nation. I am the former head of interpretation, or native interpretation at Old Fort Niagara before Jordan. And I'd worked there for about 5 years and created quite a network between the Indigenous community and people in education and tourists, tons and tons of tourists. That's what we did at Old Fort Niagara, is giving tourists sometimes their first impression of us as Indigenous people, and the need and desire for more of an Indigenous experience is so vast. People coming in and asking where they can get more of an Indigenous experience, and there's nowhere to send them. So not only is there, not very many places that our communities can go, there isn't really anywhere locally to send tourists to get an Indigenous experience. So don't ask if the ideas aren't there, because they're all there and we're waiting. Thank you.
Sego, Trent, hello, Mohawk and Tuscarora. My name is Peter. I live on Tuscarora Reservation. I've had the honor and privilege to grow up there my whole life. I've also had the honor and privilege to be inside that turtle and hear many great songs and beautiful music and people singing and dancing. Now, our esteemed chairman and chair people, you have these honor or the opportunity to take these beautiful words that all these people have brought to you today and to do something with it. To do something with all of them beautiful words, and to do something to bring back life to the city. It's in a desperate time. So once again, you have the opportunity to do something. And I urge you, everybody urges you to do something. Nyawa. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lora Brasino. I just wanted to add my support to designating the building as a historical landmark, and also would like to suggest, since this guy who owns it hasn't done anything with it for the 26 years he's owned it, and also sits on a whole bunch of other properties in New York and in New York State, if there could be a fund that could be created to maybe purchase this property to have more control over the ideas of bringing it back as a cultural center, since this guy doesn't seem very inclined to do anything at all. Just wanted to highlight and support the other achievements of the other local organizations in the area, such as the Underground Railroad Center. The Western New York Land Conservancy is another one I haven't heard mentioned yet, which has done amazing work in Niagara Falls and around Western New York. Those people have the ideas, even if we could mirror some of what they've done, of how they've purchased properties and really rehabilitated them. But yeah, I just wanted to add my support and just wanted to like second that to like everything everybody said tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Dante Miles, 631 16th Street, Niagara Falls, New York. So I'm really digesting and absorbing everything that has been said here tonight, because of course it will come across that podium up there. So from my standpoint, I haven't been, a frequent visitor of the Turtle. In its heyday, I'm 45 years old. However, I guess I can see exactly from the space that from where I come from, I see where the nations are coming from, where you have a space that was once the community. And I speak about that often, where I talk about our community center that we had when I was a kid on Center Avenue, and I'm gonna bring those cases up today. That's actually demolished, and there's no longer. And then you have the other side of it where they're dealing with right now, where there is a 13th Street Center that we had that was open once to the public, and it's owned by NFR. And so I'm for preserving. I'm for if something is able to be brought to life. Now, there is the other side of the coin that I will say as well. For everyone that's here, I would hope that everyone can really band together as everyone has tonight and really come up with some solid plan. Because we can do that, but what we don't want to happen, and that's why I'm saying personally, I can say that now because that's just how I do. I'm for the preservation of it. There's just that other portion of it is I just don't want us to just preserve a building and nothing happen. I don't want us to just say, okay, we did it, and then now we can just go back. It's there now, and that's our building, but nothing is still going to happen with it. I really would like a really solid plan, because what they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If we can, if everyone from the community, I mean, because it's all of ours. It really, I mean, you know what I mean. We're all going to, we could all benefit from it, and it's a very unique structure. I do understand that. I try to paint things from a holistic standpoint, where it's like, okay, I get it. Let's preserve it. This has a lot of culture. I didn't experience the culture, but I understand the need of keeping what it is that we have before it gets torn down or before it becomes beyond repair. So if it's preservable, let's preserve it, but let's make sure that we have some type of plan. And even if it's just a community of all of us coming together and saying, how do we make this beautiful building vibrant again? If that's fair. Thank you for your time.
That's the last chance if anybody else would like to speak. Seeing nobody making any moves towards the lectern, I am going to motion to close the public hearing at this time. Second motion.
Commissioner Brio?
Yes.
Fred Doster?
Yes.
Jessica Berry?
Yes.
Jessica Collins?
Yes.
Andrea Dosevich?
Yes.
George Robinson Bradbury?
Yes.
Noel Munoz?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Public hearing is closed.